So going forward, I just want to tell you a little bit about my story in 17 and how I felt about it. And I want to open the floor for any kind of questions. I just retired. I retired last year. Also doing some speaking and also going into wealth management. So I'm trying new things, different things for myself. Finishing as an athlete and being an athlete your whole career, your whole life almost, it's a different kind of transition because now you're going into the real world. And a lot of athletes don't realize that. You know, this is something that started as a hobby for you, and now you have created a life for you. You've created success for yourself, and then one day it's going to be done. That one day is usually by the age of 30, 40 years old, when usually your peers who are not athletes, they're going to get into their career. They've got their degree, they got their master's, they're going on with their life, and now you have to kind of reset yourself and to try to do something else and something different and find a different passion for yourself as well. That's a hard thing because as an athlete, you're driven off of passion. That's why you wake up every day. That's why you go to practice every day. That's why you train as hard as you do. That's why you bounce back after every loss, hoping that you can win the next one because that passion drives you. So that's what I'm doing now, is searching for myself, searching for my passion going forward and trying to relay that to the kids.
I just wanted to say, past performance in the 39, right?
Yep.
39. I was like,
I was doing it for us, but to make a point to that is, from the time I hit 30 years old, usually for a sprinter, a male sprinter, the shelf life for a sprinter is usually 6 years, 7 years tops, right? Maybe 2 Olympic cycles. So you're in there for 4 and then another 4 and then you're kind of out of there, right? So for me, I love what I did. I love running. I love competing. So I learned how to evolve. Instead of saying, okay, I got to be done at a certain age and then I got to figure out what my life consists of at that age because the world tells me I have to do it. I said, no, I'm going to be able to figure out what I want to do. I still feel like I have the speed. I still feel like I have the power. I still feel like I have the competitiveness inside of me. So what I did is, as a seasoned athlete, I took it more serious. So instead of clocking in and clocking out every day, going to the track, then leaving and then going doing things that's going to be opposite of being a healthy athlete, eating hamburgers and pizza and all these kind of things, staying up to 3 o'clock in the morning, I turned track and field and staying healthy into a lifestyle. So I learned about having a better diet. I learned about how to stretch better. I learned different techniques that was going to help sustain me forever how long I wanted to keep running. So to have a career in track and field for over 20 years is almost unheard of. So I actually kind of lived almost 2 careers in one. But that's because I believe that my story was not done at that point. I had so much more to give and so much more I wanted to accomplish. And so when I did that, I kind of changed the rhythm of things. Now you've seen a lot of other athletes who are going beyond 30 years old and still competing at a higher level because now they've learned how to evolve and become better athletes.
When did it click with you? Like, okay, I've got to do this if I want to stay. Or, you know, when did it like turn on? Like, oh my gosh, okay, I've got to take care of myself. What's the one thing that you did that okay, this is what I've got to do to take care of myself? Back when you first started.
Each level that I reached, so from middle school to high school to college to professionals, as I went and became a freshman or rookie each time, whatever you want to call it, I humbled myself. So whatever knowledge I brought and techniques I brought from the previous section of my career or life, I kind of put that aside. I allowed the coach to coach me. I allowed the coach to teach me certain new things. Because if you're still going to teach something that an athlete would already know, I can be able to say, okay, I know that. All right, I can just reapply that back into what I already know. So I think that helped me stay active, but also focused because I was constantly learning something new. And I was allowing myself to learn something new instead of saying, well, my coach don't know what they're talking about, or I know better than my coach. Well, that's why your coach is your coach. They're coaching you. They're teaching you. You know, they know something that you don't know, or they've been through something that you have not been through. So I allowed that to happen. I allowed my coaches, each level, to be a guru to me, to teach me something, and I compiled all that together to be able to make a sound elite athlete that was deadly on the track, but also sharp in the mind.
How does recovery look for you as an athlete trying to focus on the nutrition?
Recovery as an athlete? Well, you know, when you're young, you know, you're not too much into stretching. Stretching may take 10 minutes. You may do a bounce stretches here and there. But throughout my career, I've had a couple of hamstring tears, quad strains. So I learned how to do more self-care, foam rolling, massage gun, stretching, yoga, Pilates. So I would take the time to learn how to take care of my body, because if my body's wrecked, how am I going to perform? How am I going to get back on the track and be able to hit my times or PR? So if you're not able to do that, and then you get on the track and your hamstring is hurting or cramping, and you got to get on the line, your coach is telling you, get on the line. And you think you're going to get injured, or you think you're going to run bad. You probably are, because you're not taking care of your body. So for me, I took the time to learn the art of recovery. And I implemented that into my daily routine. I would stretch in the morning. I'll stretch at night. Even when I got to the track, I'll do a whole different section of different stretches and routines. And that helped me be a better athlete. I learned that from 2013. And by the time I got to 2015 was a year that I made history, because I ran the most fastest 9.7s ever put together in one season. That's all because I took the time to take care of my body instead of thinking that this person's going to take care of my body who's a massage therapist, or this person's going to take care of my body, and leaving it up to them. You only get one body, you only get one life, you only get one career. So for me, I felt like it was very valuable to learn those things, and it took me further in my career.
You talked about how you had a lot of people who are against you, the stats. Was there anyone while you were an athlete who motivated you heavily?
Good question. I would say, I guess it's a difference between motivation and inspiration, right? So my motivation was my team. And what I mean by my team is my coach, my training partners, my agent, because I got to a point where my second year as a professional athlete, I won an Olympic gold medal. And usually when that happens, you reach your peak, right? That's what everybody wants to accomplish. They want to be the champion. So I had to learn that it wasn't about what I only desired or what I only wanted. I was motivated by what my team also wanted and what success they needed. So I took that energy and I put it into my workouts every day, or I put it into my competitions around when I went around the world, to be able to help make them happy, help make them successful. So it wasn't just a me situation. I know track and field can be a very individualized sport, and sometimes you feel very alone out there. But when I think about the team that's back there in the warm area waiting for me to come back, or do I want to come back to a team that's going to be sad, try to pat me on the back, and they're going to have frowns on their faces? Or do I want to come back to a team that's ready to pop bottles and go out and party and have a good time? So I felt like that was on me to be able to dictate, and with the effort I put out into the track beats or at practice, I held myself accountable, saying, okay, they need this, I'm going to give it to them. I was doing football, actually, NFL for a little while. We talked about it. I talked about it earlier with Gary. And I realized something. Even though I was still working out, still training throughout that time period, I got fat. Got really fat. To the point where when I came back into the track and field world, the team I was training with, they didn't call me Gatlin, they called me Fatlin. But it didn't break me. It motivated me, you know? It told me that I had to be better. So then I started racking my brain about how I can be better and realizing that I had to eat better, had to train better. Because as an athlete, you're running every day. You're burning so many calories every day, right? You can eat whatever you want. That's what you feel like. I realized that apple pie isn't a fruit. And from there, that's when my diet kicked in. So as I learned from that point and I started training, getting better, I realized, okay, I have to be a better athlete. But my football stint, I tried out with the Saints, tried out with the Texans. I was on the Buccaneers practice squad for a little while. And then I woke up one night, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I said to myself, why am I trying so hard to be accepted in a world where they don't believe in track athletes? They think we just run fast and can't catch. So by the time I step on the field, they're already denying me. I could have stood up to that challenge, but then my next thought was, why don't you go back to a sport where you once was a king and you know how to be able to capture the throne? So that's what I did. From that point on, from 2010 on, it was such a hard climb for me because I was denied so many times, had so many no's, blackballed. But my agent gave me a valuable lesson. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. So if you keep winning, they're going to let you in races. If you keep winning, they're going to pay you. If you keep winning, you're going to get medals again, records again. And that's what only thing I focused on. So from 2010, that prepared me for what happened for me in 2017, which all those boos. I was ready and prepared for that because I was focused on what the goal was. The goal was to be successful and to complete my mission.
Do you think that starting or finishing is easier for you?
I couldn't hear, sorry?
Do you think that starting or finishing is easier for you?
Whatever it takes to win. Seriously. Because I learned as an athlete, especially as a sprinter, you have to be able to have a race strategy, right? And as sprinters, it may be different for distance runners. You have a longer time than we do. I have 9 seconds. You have to commit to that, what your race strategy is as a sprinter. So I have to race against Usain. I had to race against Tyson Gay. I got to race against Asaf Powell. All these different athletes bring something different to the table. One may be a finisher. One may be a starter. One may be really good in the middle. So in 9 seconds, I got to figure out how to combat 7 other guys who are world-class athletes, and we're almost the same speed. So as the gun goes off, I have to figure out how to get in front of this guy and stay in front of him because he's a good starter. But then I got to make sure I maintain my speed and not get caught by this guy who's on the other side of him who I can't see. So I have to create a strategy that's going to say, okay, Justin, get out hard. Make sure this guy is subdued, but make sure that you run this guy down if he's in front of you, or you hold him off so you can get to the finish line first. That's what I had to do in Lausanne in 2015. I had a finisher, a strong finisher, who was the American record holder at the time, and I had one of the fastest Jamaicans in history on the other side of me. So I had to be able to combine a strategy of being a good starter, but also a strong finisher. So don't just go out and run and just think you can run and race and that's what it's going to be. Because then most likely you will get beat. You got to be able to bring some kind of strategy to your race plan. Be a student of your game. Be a student of your event. Know the athletes that came before you in your school or in the area or in the nation. Know the athletes that are coming behind you. Know the athletes you're going to compete against now. See what makes them good. Because guess what? You got to line up the same line they got to line up, and you got to finish at the same line they finish at. So it's an equal race. What makes them better or what makes you better? You got to figure that out before you get to that starting line, and then you can apply that. Anybody else? We good?
Explain to the kids what would you do in the beginning of the year, your training regimen from the summer months to the fall to the winter to the track season. Give them an idea, strength training, running, all those types of things.
Active rest. Y'all know what active rest is? So usually in my off time, I'm still doing something active. So my body won't be shocked by the time it's time for me to get back into my training regimen, which my coach would have. And usually our first workouts are repeat 500s, which I hate. So what I would do is I would do something that would give me cardio exercise, open my lungs, give me a good sweat throughout my off-season active rest training. I took on boxing because I didn't have to run. I had to get on the bike. But guess what? You get 2 minutes in the ring, 2 minutes off. 2 minutes in the ring, 2 minutes off. Work on those kind of things. I worked on to be able to create a great strategy or a great system, should I say, in my off season that helped me become better as I went into my fall training. Because usually what happens is you're going to have the same kind of training each year, and it's going to get redundant. Spice it up a little bit. Find something that's going to be a challenge for you. I never boxed in my life, but I knew that it was going to help me be better. And once I got back into regular training, I saw improvement. I was able to run 500s, not as good as I wanted to, but better. And that just enough was going to help make me a champion. And that's all I needed. So don't just sit around, do nothing the whole summer. Don't just sit around, do nothing through the fall breaks. Find something that's going to keep you active. Find something that's going to keep you motivated, and use that into whatever your goal is when it comes to come back to school and getting into your season. So much. You guys are so lucky. Oh, my God. I wish I had a smart track when I was really, really competing hard. I mean, when I started off, we just had stopwatches. I know that sounds super old when I'm saying this. But now we have timing systems. And timing systems can be able to track not only your speed that you're running, but then it can measure your stride length. It can measure your power output into the track. It can also measure your velocity, how long you're staying in the air, your touchdown, how many times you're touching down on the ground. You got so much different things out there technology-wise. You can slow yourself down, look at your form. All these kind of things really helped me out going in my career. So one thing I really liked was we had a guy who came over with a system who was able to work on my start and work on your top end speed. He was able to slow you down. He had a stick figure that was a part of the program. And you can gauge that stick figure to whatever speed you want to. So if you want it to be at world record speed, you're racing the stick figure on the screen. So then now you can see how you match up to somebody who's at world record pace. And then that scientist, if you want to say, that specialist, he can say, okay, we want to work on, make sure that your arm is swinging this way instead of this way. We want to make sure that your step is a little shorter, not too long. So all those kind of measurements made sprinting fun, but also made sprinting very valuable for me because I was learning knowledge just by watching instead of thinking that I had to go out there and run all the time and hoping that my coach was seeing with his eyeball what he needed to. And when we get to a meet, we are guessing and hoping that everything's going to happen the way we want to. So I take on technology. Technology is a beautiful thing. Use it. Apply it to your everyday workouts. Use it for races and competition if necessary because it's the way. It's the future, and it's going to help you be a better athlete.
Side where athletes, middle school, high school, college, they want instant success. But they don't understand the concept of sacrifice or putting the time or hard work. What is your input on that?
That's a really good question. I think, and I don't want to blame this generation, because this generation is a room full of this generation, right? But I think a lot of athletes have fell out of love with the process. When you watch those old movies like Rocky and everything, the best thing about the movie was the process. It was him leading up to the fight. It was him training for that moment, because he learned something about himself that he could take into the ring to make him a better athlete. A lot of athletes nowadays only want to care about getting a contract, running in meets, traveling the world. All those things are going to come if you trust the process. The process is going to make you the athlete you desire to be. The process is going to make you the champion. The process is going to get you on top of that podium. When you see all those athletes on the podium, when they're crying, they're not crying because they won a gold medal. They're crying because their process worked. They took a risk and a gamble on a process, and it panned out for them, and it worked, and they're happy. Trust the process. Dive into it every day. I know it sounds monotonous, but I guarantee you, if you put your head down, you work hard now, in the next couple of years, all the things that you desire can actually happen. Full scholarships, professional contracts, because now guess what? You're not skipping over certain important things that you need trying to get to what your end goal is. You're taking every step and you're laying every brick in that process to give you a strong road to your success. So everyone, don't worry about state championship. What you need to worry about right now is the first meet that you're going to have. And you need to treat the first meet as a state championship. That's how you should look at it. Don't say, oh, I got another race after that. No, this is the race that needs to be won. This one. And when that race is done, the next race needs to be won. And then the one after that and the one after that. If you love it, go for it. Because if you just throw it to the side, you're going to throw everything else to the side at some point. And it's become a habit. And as athletes, we have habits. You either have good habits or bad habits. And usually 9 times out of 10, what your Achilles heel is, the bad habits. That's what in a lot of careers, the bad habits. So learn what your habits are. Change the bad ones and encourage the good ones.
You're 39 now?
I am 40.
40, perfect.
Yes.
So Tim Collins owns the world record Masters 40 at 9.93.
I know.
So we need to rep that.
I retired a little too soon, right? I'm going to come right when we finish building the track out here. I'm going to come back. I'm going to come out of retirement. I'm going to break the record out here. Yeah, easier said than done sometimes. I ran one 400 meter. I ran a lot of 4x4s in my life throughout college, professionally. Ran some good times when I was in good shape. But I realized that I love what I do, but I didn't want to change who I was just to stay in a sport. Because even if I was going to be a 400 meter runner, was I going to be the best 400 meter runner? Most likely not. I'm 40 years old. I'm racing against guys who are 20 something years old. You know what I mean? I would have loved it. That would have kept me in the game, right? Kept me in the party. But I realized that I have to love the sport enough to where I know when it's time for me to move to the side and allow the other athletes to have their moments. And that was my time. I did everything I could do in the sport. Everything. I love what I do. I love the feeling of running so fast I feel free. When you're running fast like that, everything slows down. It feels like the Matrix. And I mean, if you've ever done 400-meter workouts, they're not fun. So I didn't want to take my 40-year-old body through that. So I suggested that I was going to transition out of the sport, and some people felt like it was too soon. But I felt like I could start a whole new adventure. And I realized that starting a whole new adventure for myself, I have to start over again. What I said before, that freshman or that rookie. And that's what I'm going through now. Finding who I am, finding what I want to do going forward, but also knowing what I've been through and what I've gone through and the knowledge that I've gained, and be able to use that for myself and others.
Did you ever feel stress or nervous before meets, or if you did, how did you cope?
No, I really didn't feel any stress before meets. I'm going to tell you why, though. You know what? I'm going to take that back. I did. One season. I changed camps. I had a whole new coach. And it felt so unfamiliar. I felt so awkward. I felt like I didn't get the training I needed. And when I stepped to the line, the scariest thing to me in the world is stepping to that line and not knowing what I can do. Meaning, like, if I'm going to run fast or I'm going to run slow. I felt like I was gambling. But when I felt like I was on, and I felt like I went through practice and I worked very hard, and the times reflect what I could run in a meet, I felt unstoppable. I felt more anxious. And with anxiousness comes excitement, because I knew what I could do. I knew what my capabilities were. And I knew that anybody that's on this line has to run this time to be able to beat me. And that's the time I was going to produce. And that's all I worried about. So for athletes who are nervous, are you nervous because of uncertainty? Are you nervous because you think you're going to win or lose? You have to really ask yourself what you're nervous about. There's going to be a winner, and there's going to be losers. That's how it happens in track and field, right? How is it going to affect you? That's the real question. If you lose this one, are you going to be down on yourself, or are you going to take it as a lesson, right? Because every loss, there's a lesson in a loss, right? There's more lessons in losing than there is actually in winning. Because when you win, you're like, I did everything. I'm perfect. What do I need to do now? Just keep doing the same thing. But when you lose, you can say, man, why did they beat me? What can I do better? What did they do better? How can I change this? Do I need a different regimen? Do I need different training partners? Do I need to be more focused? All these questions that are up in the air, you have to be able to answer those questions. And you got to teach yourself, okay, when I step to the line, and you can do this at practice. I used to take days at practice and just emulate like I'm at a meet. Like I will walk up to practice, not talk to nobody, be aggressive, because that's how I'm at meets. And I'll just go through the motions and the steps of actually if I'm at a meet. I would say do that. If you're nervous, figure out why you're nervous. Don't just cover it up. Figure out why you're nervous, because you're never going to get past that, and you're going to go through your whole career being nervous. And you may win something, you may do well, but I guarantee that nervousness is going to stop you from being the best you can be. Be comfortable. Be confident in yourself. Like I said, the process is going to be so important. Make sure you ask your coach, what times am I running at practice? What pace am I on? Because then you can be able to feel it in your body, and you can be able to say, okay, this is this time, and this is what I felt. And now you can replicate that over and over again. In track and field, it's not about how fast you can run. It's about how many times you can run that fast. That's what makes a champion. The finals is not about who's the fastest. It's actually about who can endure the longest. That's what it is. You're going to line up against people who are just as fast as you, just as talented as you at some point in time, especially probably at your new college. But I guarantee you, if you stop, take it in, be a student of the game, learn who you're around, learn what they can give to you, learn what their flaws are, now you have an understanding of your realm. Now you can go into your realm and say, I can beat her because I can outkick her at the end. I can pace, I can do whatever. But if you just go to the line and just think that you're going to run, it's going to all pan out for you, it usually doesn't work out that way. So find who you are. Don't be nervous. Don't be scared. You're there for a reason. Execute.
Prepare or handle running through conditions in your conditions, whether it be hot, cold, or elevation.
So, I mean, obviously, going into the elements is always going to be a tricky thing. So if I went to a place that's going to be hot, I would not take a longer time to warm up, or my usual time to warm up. I may warm up less, or I may take more time in between my warm-ups, my drills, to make sure that I wasn't overheating. If I'm in a colder place, I'll take longer, the opposite, right? But then I had to deal with the element of jet lag, traveling around the world, flying 13 hours to Japan, where it's the opposite side of the world, and you got to run where normally you would be asleep, knocked out at 5 o'clock in the morning. I learned a trick dealing with that. You don't have to follow the system that is there for you. Whatever you feel that you need to be ready for that day, you do what you got to do to be ready for that day. It could be a superstition, it could be a routine, it could be whatever. But I learned that when I got overseas, we were running races at night overseas, which would be basically midday back at home. So I just stayed up. So when everybody else was asleep over in Rome or whatever, and I'm sitting there in Rome, I'll just be up watching TV, or I'll be up on my iPad, watching Netflix, doing whatever, because I knew that I was preparing myself for a race that was going to be at this time, and I didn't need to be awake. So as 3 days went by, I would keep that same routine, and by the time I got ready for my race, everybody else is out there like this. Not me. I'm ready to go. So just figure out where you're at and apply what you need to do. You figure out the strategies are there.
How often did you find that your strategies when you were preparing for races didn't end up working out? You had to like go back and fix what you did and kind of restart the process?
Not too often, but when they happen, I would be frustrated. I was a person who took very, very anal about how I set my things up. Like the time I get ready for warm-up, my strategy. I would sit up at night, instead of watching TV, I would look at races of my opponents. I look at races of my opponents the year before, and I look at races of my opponents in this year, and what they're doing similar, and what they're doing different. And I can break their races down and say, okay, well, he's pushing out the blocks high. He's not coming out low. He's not going to generate velocity down the track. So I know I can beat him from the blocks. I got to take his legs out. That's what you call it. If I'm lower than you out the blocks, I'm generating more velocity than you. I'll take your legs out. So I had to be able to implement a strategy. Now, guess what? Like I said, it's habits. If they come all of a sudden out of nowhere and we get in this race and I'm waiting for him to push up and he pushes out and we're both at the same level, it's a race. Let's go. I may lose, I may win. Dealing with Usain, Usain made it hard for me. And Usain was kind of only the one who would kind of upset my strategies. He realized that I was learning as I raced. And I beat him in 2013 in just a one-off race in Rome. And I remember him crossing the line, and we went into and he wasn't upset, but he was shocked. And then we went into the press conference afterwards. And he just had a normal press conference, and we all, were talking, answering questions. He wasn't mad or anything. But after he left the press conference, we all were walking single file line, with your team. And I remember him leaning over to his agent. He was in front of me. He said, "That was embarrassing. It's never going to happen again." Just like that. "That was embarrassing. It's never going to happen again." He was talking to his agent, but I'm right there. And from 2013 on, he never raced me in a regular race during the season. The only time I was able to race Usain was at a finals of a world championships or the Olympics. Why he did that is because he knew if I raced against him anywhere else in the world, I could feel his energy, I could see his race strategy, I can be able to compete against him, I could beat him. That would lower his stock. So he took a gamble. He only raced me when he had to race me. That's it. So it took time to realize, acclimate to that system and say, okay, well, how can I beat Usain? Boom, lost to him there. How can I beat Usain? Boom, lost to him there. How can I beat Usain? Boom, lost to him there. Then I said, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I'm going to not worry about my start, and I'm going to finish. And I put it together, and I was able to beat him in his last race. So it takes time. I wasn't mad he was beating me, because at the end of the day, he was teaching me. As I was losing, I was becoming a better athlete. So from there, I won the last race. Strategy always going to work. It may not work the first time, second time, third time, but if you keep applying strategy, the plan will work eventually. You'll get smarter, and you'll get the hang of it.
Who was the most fun guy to beat besides Usain?
Who's what?
Who's the most fun guy to beat besides Usain?
I probably would say Asafo Powell. He was another Jamaican. He came right before Usain. Why I say is because we both turned pro at the same time. So we both was running for the same amount of time in our career. I don't know, the record between, I was like 10 to his 5 or something like that. Like I beat him 10 times to his 5, 4 times. It was just fun beating him, because I knew that he created a habit, and I watched him. He would run in races that I wasn't in, or anybody who was a threat. He would run, and as he get to the line, if the line's right here, instead of doing the traditional lean for the line, he would back off. This right here, coming across the line, like, hey, I'm gonna slow down, coming across the line. That was an indication to tell the other athletes, people in the stadium, and the ones watching at home, I got more left in the tank. But when you race against people who are just as good as you and are gonna run you to the line, this is gonna lose every time, because I'm here. So he created a habit that he didn't know how to break. So every time he ran, come across that line, he would back off. So every time I crawled him across the line, I would laugh every time. I was like, you're never going to learn. So he was always fun to beat, always fun to compete against. It's between Monaco and probably Tokyo. Monaco, because obviously all the wealth, the riches. We took a helicopter to the practice track. And Tokyo, because it's just different, man. Other side of the world, it was amazing. But every place was so different from each other. We were training in Rio, getting ready for the Olympics, training right next to like the jungle and everything. So that was amazing. In Rome, where you train for the track, there's like these marble statues, and like you feel like you're just like a gladiator in the Coliseum, and it's only down the street. The real Coliseum is right down the street. So it's a feel. Every track that you would compete at around the world had a different vibe. Zurich was rowdy. They would stomp, because this floor was made out of metal, so they would stomp. So the whole stadium would do it. So everything was amazing. I love Zagreb, because Zagreb was like a party. So they had a DJ. DJ played music the whole time. Doop, 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 doop. The only time the music stopped is when you get in the blocks, you get ready, gun goes off, pow, doop, 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 doop. Adults drinking wine, kids drinking soda in the crowd. You love it. It's things that I never knew that I was going to encounter as an athlete, but I knew that my dream and my passion was to run, to compete, and travel the world. So these are all things that I learned as I traveled, and I'm so thankful that I was able to do that. So whatever your goals and your dreams is, go for it, shoot for it. It'll take you somewhere that you never imagined you thought you were going to be at. You'll learn things that you never knew about yourself or about the world too.
Do you have any tricks to keep your confidence up when you were losing?
Yeah, I look in the mirror. Tricks to keep my confidence up. Music? I'll say music. I didn't necessarily like listen always to the words of music when I was warming up, but I always think that it was like a real cool soundtrack in the background while I was warming up. So that's what it felt like. So music always kept my confidence up. Really, that's the only time I really listened to music because I didn't want it to like dull my senses of excitement. So the only time I would listen to music was when I was at a track meet. So it would get me pumped up, it get me ready, it get me excited. And then I learned how to be able to be confident enough without even having music. So I would warm up with no headphones, no nothing, and I'll just listen to like my breathing, I'll listen to my footsteps, and I'll just take myself to that quiet place and just be ready, be centered. But like you said, confidence, whatever your tool is to make you confident, use it, go for it. Your confidence, you don't gotta be Superman or Superwoman, but just be confident whatever your race plan is. Be confident whoever you're going to be.
Stop us there, because I know someone will get some pictures and stuff, spend some time. So, but Justin, thank you so much for coming to spend this time with everybody, and audience, thank you for your time coming here. So.
I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for taking your time. Like I said, I know it's a Friday night. I know you could be doing something better with your night, but thank you very much. Thank you for letting me share my story, my wisdom with you. Hope to see you again when your new track is built, and I'll come out here and cheer you all on, all right? Thank you.